Hey team, welcome to this video. A couple of people have asked me for some advice on how to apply to away rotations. If you don't know who I am, my name is Adam. I'm a fourth year medical student right now at Rocky Vista University, applying to pathology. Waiting to hear about the match here soon in a couple of months. But I was fortunate enough last year to be pretty successful when it came to away rotations, and so some people have been asking me questions, and I think that a lot of people could maybe benefit from some of this information. So thought I'd put it out there. Um, I think that right now this is pretty pertinent. Third year medical students, it's January, so a lot of you are probably thinking about this, trying to figure this out right now. So hopefully I can be a little bit of help. Today in this video, we're just going to be talking about what these are a little bit. You probably know mostly by now, but why should you do one? What it should be your goal in an away rotation? How to apply, and which ones you should do. As far as how to perform well once you're on the rotation, we'll probably save that for another day, another video. So first, all these words, away rotation, sub-I, audition rotation, these are all synonyms essentially for the same kind of experience where you leave your home institution, you go to a different place with their own program, and you work in that environment and you kind of see how the residency program functions. You work with the residents. How and to what extent you do that will be very dependent on what the rotation, like the individual institution. So as far as what it's being called, don't worry about that too much unless it's being called an observership. An observership is sometimes used in these spaces, and this is different. Generally, observerships are experiences that are designed for students that are not based in the United States. This is a situation where a student can essentially come and shadow faculty or residents in a program for a period of time. They are not allowed to participate in clinical care. They are not allowed to write reports, not allowed to do really anything. So if you are a student in the United States, you do not want to be applying to something called an observership if you can help it. So why should you do an audition rotation or away rotation? Some of you may not. If you have a home residency program that you really love, you love the residents there, you just want to stay there, that's fine. I think that's great. But I think that most people can benefit from doing at least one audition or away rotation for a few reasons. In pathology, the most important thing for you is going to be your narrative, the story of why you want to be a pathologist. And if you have limited experience in pathology, say you only have one clinical elective in your third year, or you did some MLS work before medical school, it might be difficult to convince a program that you truly want to be a pathologist and you know what that means. So doing a variety of rotations, I would suggest doing two at least. We'll get to that a little bit later, but doing a couple rotations so that you can point to different experiences you've had and kind of having varied experiences will help you with this narrative of, yeah, I want to be a pathologist and I know why, and I know what makes it hard to be a pathologist, and I know the parts of it that I really enjoy. I think that is the most important part. Second thing, if you are like me and you're coming from a institution without a home program, you may be struggling to get letters of recommendation. A lot of residency programs will want to see at least 2 letters of recommendation from pathologists. So it's important for a lot of us to go do an away rotation so that you can get another letter or 2 from pathologists. So that's an important point to do these rotations. Also, letters of recommendation from people outside of your home program can often go further because these people don't really know you outside of the month that you spent in their institution, and so they don't really owe anything to you necessarily like somebody in your home institution might feel more loyalty to you because of that relationship. So they can be really valuable letters. Another thing is interest, right? If you have a program that you really, really want to attend for residency and you haven't had a chance to be there in person, this is a great way to show them, hey, I'm serious about wanting to come here. But this goes both ways too. An away rotation is an excellent way to evaluate a program, right? To go and understand what you care about in a residency and the things that you want to ask about in your interviews, right? So it helps you to understand, and moving on to this, your values, right? what it is that you want to see when you're doing interviews, and also to really get a good look at a specific program and to let that program get a good look at you. So I think they're great. I think they're really helpful. Now, this is a really important point. Throughout kind of your career so far, most likely you have been a bug. You have been annoying. You've been a medical student. You've been an undergrad student. Nobody wants to do anything for you. You're just kind of in everybody's way. And when you get to this point where you're applying to residency, all of a sudden you're getting to a point where you have serious value that you add to an institution. You are a commodity, and these programs want you. They want you to come. They think you're great. So it's really important that you go into this whole thing understanding that you're going into the match in more of a position of power than you've really had before, right? Like, places want to impress you and they want you to come to their program. So don't feel like, I think it's just an important thing to internalize that, hey, I'm valuable here. People want me as much as I want and need them. So I think that's a really important point to keep in mind. So how do you apply to away rotations? There are two main ways that you can apply to away rotations that I've experienced. I think there are some other ways, but most programs in the United States will use this website, VSLO, the Visiting Student Learning Opportunities website run by the AAMC. You've probably gotten a little bit of an orientation about this from your institution already. But what's important about this is most programs are going to be on VSLO eventually. It's still January, so it's still possible that the program you're interested in will not be on VSLO. One way that you can find out about this is if you go to VSLO and you click on Find Institutions, you can just search institutions that you're interested in, and you'll see whether or not they have listings that'll become available for you to view, when you'll be able to view those, things like that. So I think it's valuable to have kind of a preliminary list in your mind of places that you would really like to go for residency, whether that be REACH programs or programs that are close by to where you live. That doesn't really matter, but have a broad kind of range of programs you're interested in so that you can find opportunities that fit you and what you care about. If you cannot find an institution on VSLO, you should go to the residency program's website and find out what opportunities they offer. For me, I ended up applying to roughly 6 programs through VSLO. I received offers to do 3 rotations through VSLO. I didn't do any of those, and the 2 rotations that I did do, I applied to through the program websites, so they weren't listed on VSLO. So that's really important, is if there's a place you want to find, go find them, go search them up. They're probably doing some stuff that isn't listed, and that can be a way to get a rotation that you might not otherwise get, because places that aren't listed in VSLO usually have lower demand from students. So while you're kind of figuring out your list and like programs you care about and where you want to apply, there's a few things that are important that you'll need during the next couple of months. The first one is time. This takes forever. You're going to be doing these applications for months, right? They kind of come out on a rolling basis. Some places are available to apply to now, very few. Most places aren't going to be open for you to apply to until March or April. So you have time to kind of get some stuff put together if you haven't started yet, which is great. But another really important thing to keep in mind is that it's really important to be punctual with this. The earlier that you can get an application in, the better. It's not the end of the road. I ended up applying to one of the rotations that I completed. I didn't apply to until July because I didn't know it existed. So it's definitely not the end of the world, but the closer you can get to the submission, when the program opens submissions, the closer you can get your application at that time, the better. You're going to need a lot of documentation, and it's going to be really hard to keep track of. You're going to want to have a folder on your computer that is just all of this stuff. Every program is going to want a different combination of these things, and whether it's you that's providing it or your institution varies from program to program. So you're going to want to get as much of this stuff as you can, and make sure that you understand that you're ultimately responsible for all of this. So you got to be double and triple checking this stuff. If it says your home program is going to be uploading it, that's great. You should be checking it to make sure that's happening and emailing the appropriate people if things aren't getting uploaded in a timely manner. So some things that programs have asked for that I've seen, this is not exhaustive, but this is mostly like boring stuff, like your vaccine record, proof of attendance at your institution, proof of insurance, proof of like health, and that can be health insurance or malpractice insurance, your transcript, your N95 mask fit. This took me forever to track down. You're gonna want to make sure you can find that. BLS, ACLS certifications, make sure those are up to date and that they don't lapse before you start the rotation. Board score results, and any number of things. Every program is going to be different, so make sure you're double, triple, quadruple checking all of the programs and what they say they need. So a lot of this is just tracking down. Here's some things that you can start working on now that can really have a big impact on whether or not you're accepted for a rotation. A lot of this other stuff is just checkbox stuff, but some places will ask for a personal statement or like some kind of letter of intent or intro, like they'll name it different things, but it's essentially the same thing. This does not have to be the same personal statement that you submit for ERAS. Mine definitely was not by any stretch of the imagination, but essentially programs, if they give you space to write a few paragraphs about yourself, that's a great opportunity to list out not a CV. You don't want this to read like a CV because a lot of times they're going to ask you for that too, but just experiences you've had, why you want to be a pathologist, why you're interested in their program specifically. These are meant to be kind of personalized in my opinion. So I think if you apply to a program and they ask for one of these, you should include a portion of why you're interested in doing that away rotation. Letters of recommendation, if you can get one from a pathologist, that's great. A lot of you won't have been able to do an elective with a pathologist yet, but if you can, so a letter from a clinician is the next best thing. And if you can't get that and you need one from like a basic science faculty, that's okay, or like a research person, but ideally it's from a clinician that you've done a rotation with. And lastly, a photo. A lot of places are going to request a photo. You're probably going to have like a white coat photo from when you started medical school. Strongly recommend that you get a new one. You're going to want to get a new headshot that's professionally done, where you're not wearing your white coat. It's kind of widely accepted that a photo where you're wearing your white coat is kind of a faux pas for the residency application process. So you might as well just get a new one now. And this is, again, not exhaustive. They need so much stuff. So just make sure you're keeping track of all this, checking all of their requirements, and giving yourself a lot of time to get this stuff gathered together. Now, you have all your stuff ready, you know how to apply, and now you're just surrounded by all these options. So which ones should you apply to? I heard some advice from my school that said that you should apply to roughly 3 times as many as you want to get, which I think is fine. I think that's reasonable. You should not be worried about canceling them. If you're offered a rotation and you cancel it, I don't think that's the end of the world. You want to do it with lots of lead time, and you don't want to do it too much because some programs might not like that. So the less you can cancel them, the better. But one thing to consider is which kind of experience is being offered. Is it a surgical pathology rotation? Is it forensics? Is it just overall anatomic pathology? Is it clinical pathology? Pathology is an extremely broad specialty. So I recommend prioritizing doing the rotations in the part of pathology you're most interested in, right? Like if you're applying APCP, it'd be good to do both, but if you have like a preference, anatomic or clinical, I think it's fine to just do all your rotations in the one you're more interested in. But if you have the time, making sure that you get a variation of experience is really great. Like I had people in my interviews ask me about my clinical pathology exposure, which I did not do a rotation in clinical pathology. I did get a little bit of exposure from my 3rd year elective, but like barely any. And it wasn't a problem, I don't think, but it's definitely something that I wish that I had done more of so that I could speak to that more confidently in my interviews. Which institution? Now, do you want to go to your dream residency program for your away rotation? And I don't know. I think this is a tough question, one that you should reflect on a lot, right? Because 4 weeks, which is the standard timeline for these, 4 weeks is a lot of time to spend. And if there's somewhere that you know that you really, really want to go, you should be a little bit kind of not concerned, but aware of the fact that if you're somewhere for 4 weeks, it's possible that you rub somebody the wrong way in those 4 weeks. So I personally would just go to whichever programs you care about the most and you want to like understand better. But if you haven't gotten very good feedback on your clinical rotations so far and you're worried about making a good impression, that's something to keep in mind and just to think about. Uh, Another thing to consider is it could be a good idea to go to programs that you feel like you might not otherwise get an interview with, right? Big name programs, programs that you think might be out of reach for you. If you do an away rotation at those programs, that can kind of flip the script. And if you do a really good job, that can be kind of one of the only things that matters in terms of getting an interview, as long as you meet minimum requirements. So I think one, like, go somewhere that you really want to go and you really want to get a good look at their program. That's the most important thing. Next important thing is programs that might not otherwise interview you. And then after that, I think you should go based off cost. If you're not doing one of those two things, I would say just go to the cheapest one that's closest to you. That would be best. How many to do? I think if you are applying to pathology with less than 3 months of pathology experience, that's going to be kind of rough. I think you should have at least 3 months. So if you did like a clinical elective in the third year and then you do 2 away rotations, that's what I did. I was set. I felt like I had lots of experiences to talk about, variable experiences. I knew some people, and like could have like people knew people who I knew, and that was fun. Um, so I think that that's a good amount. You don't need to be doing 6, 7, 8 rotations in pathology. You can if you want and you have the money to spend, I guess, but I would recommend around 3 months of time in pathology electives total. But in the end, it's all about like you have more options now than you probably had when you were applying to medical school. You're a sought after candidate, and the world is your oyster. So really, it's what you care about and what you value is the most important thing. If you have any more questions after this video, please feel free to comment below, or if you have any other things that you've experienced, that would be great. Um, and then here's a little thing. I did use SlidesGo to make this PowerPoint. I liked all the cute microscopes, so there's a little acknowledgement for them. So thank them for these templates. They're really great if you want to use those. But yeah, again, any questions, feel free to reach out to me, and I hope you have a great day.